Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys doing this evening? It is currently about, I think it's about 6:45, and I am uploading a drama video, a review video, and a Peterisms video, and I filmed them like all in a row, and then I was talking to my neighbor across the street, and then I talked to my friend Valerie on the phone, and my whole jaw started hurting. So, I haven't taken any Tylenol today or anything because I've just been trying to get through the whole day. So I'm in a vlog for a little bit, and then I'm going to take the Tylenol afterwards so that I can just kind of relax and yeah, just kind of like sit and relax. So I know that last night was a really short vlog, but tonight's going to be a short vlog too, probably even shorter maybe. Now I say that and watch, it'll end up being 58 minutes, but no, it's not going to be 58 minutes tonight because number one, I don't have tons to say, and number two, I feel like I need to relax a little bit. I almost was like, okay, I'm just not going to vlog tonight and let my mouth relax, and I thought, no, I can get on and I can vlog for 20 or 30 minutes. So I don't like missing days vlogging. I don't like missing them at all. So I wanted to get on, and I'm uploading videos right now, so it's not like I can like be on my phone looking at Instagram or anything like that. And I'm caught up on all of my shows. Last night, Boo Radley and I fell asleep. Well, okay, so I had like 5 episodes of Your Honor to watch. So I wasn't super hungry last night. It was real interesting. I made like a piece of quiche, and then I had some macaroni salad, but and like some chips, but like I just really small portions of all of it. I just really wasn't that hungry at all. And it was almost kind of like my stomach hurt a little bit. So after I ate, I was like, let's lay down for a little bit. So we laid down, and I would fall asleep for like 45 minutes, and then I would wake up, and then I would try to fall back asleep again, and I'd fall back asleep, and then I would wake up, and it'd be like 45 minutes later or an hour later. So finally I woke up. I was going to try to sleep through the whole night and get a good night's sleep. But I was like, if I get up and I watch TV shows, I get up and I watch TV shows. So I got up at about 3 o'clock in the morning. I had watched one episode of Your Honor earlier. And so I got up and I watched 2 episodes. I think I had half of an episode and then 1 episode. And then when I got up, I watched the other 3 episodes. And so I caught up on Your Honor, which is like super, super intense. Yeah, and then I went to bed, and I had like a really hard time falling asleep last night. But finally, I went to bed and snuggled next to little Boo Radley, and it was cold last night. Like last night, it got really low outside, and there was like frost on the roofs of the houses and stuff like that. But today, it was like in the mid-50s. I think it was actually supposed to be warmer than it was. But it was a nice day outside. It was kind of sunny, and it was like in the mid-50s. Tomorrow, it's supposed to be, I think, 62 tomorrow and 68 on Wednesday, which I'm really excited about. So yeah, so we've had some nicer weather. A lot of the people that are like walking by, like the neighbors, when we talk about it, we're always like, God, it's so nice, isn't it? Talked to my dad for a long time today on the phone, and we were talking about the weather, and he was like, I can't believe that this weather has been like this in like January and February. He was like, we haven't really had that bad of weather at all. So caught up with him, and then filmed my drama video. I talked to him first, and then I filmed my drama video, and then my review video, which were these cookies that I was sent by this Twin Life bakery. And then I did a Peterisms video. The meditation was really good on the Peterisms video. I was actually... Oh, and then I FaceTimed with Alex for a long time, too. They were getting ready to go to bed because they are doing this, like, really cool thing tomorrow. Oh, my nail. So they were, like, in bed. They had, like, done this. So they went up, I don't know how to pronounce it right, but they went up the mountain Montserrat today. And then they ended up doing this monastery Winery is where they finished it. And Alex said it was like, he was sending me pictures, and he put a bunch of like pictures and videos up on his Instagram story. It was absolutely gorgeous, and they are just having such a great time. So his mom got kind of sad on the phone today, like when we were FaceTiming, and she's like, I can't believe that my trip with Alex is almost over, but we've had such a great time. And so I think she's getting kind of sad about it. But yeah, they've had like a really great time, and then they have tomorrow, and then he comes back on Tuesday. So he's like, I'm gonna be so tired on Tuesday, and he's like, can you put a pizza in the oven for me? So because he gets in, I can't remember what time, but he's like, can you put a pizza in for me? So I get home, I go, well babe, I'm taking an Uber to Tanya's house, and then I will be at my meeting on Tuesday night, because I figured you just want to come home and like relax anyway. I think he gets in like at 7 or something like that, or 7:30. So I was like, by the time that I get back from my meeting, he'll just be getting home. And so he was like, oh, okay. So I was like, I can order you a pizza if you want to pick it up on the way, or have it delivered, and then it'll just be here. And he was like, yeah, I might have you do that. And I was like, yeah, I have no problem doing that at all. So anyway, because he's like, I know I'm going to be hungry when I get off that plane, and I'm going to want to eat something before I just like crash in bed. And then he has to turn around and he has to work the next morning. So, but he's been having just such a fantastic time. Anyway, I was talking on my vlog today about how I love Sundays, and Sundays are just, for me, like one of my favorite days of the week. I've talked about this on here so many times, I feel like. But you know, like when I was growing up as a kid, before my parents were separated, I can remember we would like come home from church. We went to church like every Sunday. I would go to, so my parents were like both really involved in the church that I grew up in. And so I would go to Sunday school, and then but both my parents like did stuff. So my dad was like an elder for the first service, and then my mom was like a Sunday school teacher. So we would go to both. So we would go early. There was like a 9 o'clock service and an 11 o'clock service, or a 10:30 service or something like that. And so during the first service, I would go to Sunday school. My mom would teach Sunday school. My dad was an elder. And then we would all sit together for the second service. And then we would come home. And my mom would make lunch and whatever. And I can remember after my dad left and they were separated, my mom and I would stop at that Roslyn Bakeries that I absolutely loved. It closed down years ago, but there was like 10 of them here in town. And she let me get a couple donuts, and then they always had like holiday themed cookies that were like, had really like that thick icing on it that was so good. And so I could get like a cookie or whatever. And so when we came home and she was like cooking lunch, which was always like that Mrs. Grass's or Mrs. Knorr's, I can never remember, that chicken noodle soup that has like the ball that has like the spices in it that I always wanted to put into the pot of soup. She would make, it has like the noodles that are like that big. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? The real skinny noodles. She would make that with like tuna fish salad sandwiches in this metal bowl. I remember she used to always make it in this metal bowl. Or she would make like peanut butter sandwiches or whatever. And then I would sit out at this glass table that we had on our porch, and I would read the comics from like cover to cover, all of the comics, even the ones I didn't like Apartment 331B or whatever. And I would read the comics, and then we would eat lunch together, you know, like 1 or 2, and then like take a nap. And like my mom would call people on the phone and stuff, and then like I would take a nap. And I remember like in the evenings, like we would read books, or like reading books was very common in my house when I was growing up. Like just get a book and we would all sit, like my mom and I would sit in a room together and read. Like both of my parents are huge readers. I was actually talking to my dad today about all these books that he's reading, and he reads really bizarre stuff. Like he was talking about this book that he was reading about the cobalt mining industry, and like these kids that work there, and they like, some of them die in these caves, and they're making like $1 a day, and what cobalt is used for. And it's like this whole industry that nobody really knows anything about. My dad reads like the most bizarre books about stuff. So anyway, so he was telling me all about that. But yeah, like when I was growing up, my parents, like, my dad's always kind of read nonfiction stuff, but my mom read a lot of fiction. She read nonfiction. She read a lot of memoirs and things like that. My dad was reading some memoir. I can't remember who it was. But my mom read a lot of memoirs, but she also read a lot of fiction. And so we would like get our PJs on and just like, you know, sit in the living room or the porch down. The porch was like this enclosed room that we had. It wasn't like a screened in porch. It was like an actual room in our house that you stepped down into, and it was like green carpet and then floor to ceiling. It was like white exposed brick, and then on one wall, and then French doors going into it, and then 3 walls were all floor to ceiling windows. And that's why we called it the porch. And it sat on the very end of the house and looked into the woods. It was really a cool room. And so we had a TV out there and stuff, so we would watch TV out there. We would read books and whatever. And yeah, it was just like, I loved that room so much. But we would read a lot on Sunday nights, or my mom and I would watch like a movie, like the movie of the week, you know, or something like that. Or when we started renting movies, we would, you know, rent a movie or whatever and watch that, and then we would go to bed real early. But I remember Sundays always being just like this really like peaceful, serene day. And that's why I always say, like, on Sundays on my vlog, you know, get rejuvenated, refreshed, renewed, and relaxed for the week ahead, because that's what Sundays have always been for me. And I think that's why I've always loved Sundays. But it was interesting when I got done doing my Peterisms video, I was thinking about like Sundays of my childhood, you know? And I can remember like laying out my outfit for the next day for school. My mom would always have me do that. And, you know, getting stuff ready for the next week, having my school bag packed for the next day and things like that, so I could just like get up and get ready and go. And one of the things that's so interesting that I remember is and I don't know why, like, in talking about my mom's drinking or talking about my childhood, like, this didn't occur to me. I don't remember my mom, like, I'm sure she probably had a glass of wine here and there, but I don't remember her ever getting intoxicated on a Sunday. Like, I don't remember ever, like, those were never days that, like, I just remember those being, like, such family-oriented days, even when it was just the two of us, that I don't remember her ever like drinking a lot or whatever. And you know, it's interesting because, you know, I talk about my mom being this active alcoholic and growing up with this active alcoholic, which she was, but it got worse as I got older. Like, when I was younger, like really young, like when my parents got separated and divorced and stuff like that, she would drink a lot, but it was typically on weekends that I was with my dad. I don't know how she controlled it, but she would. Like, often when I was at home, there were occasions where I can remember certain situations, like where I couldn't get into the house, and then when I could, I finally, like, I kicked a hole in the wall because I was so mad at my mom and stuff like that. But there were, like, occasions where stuff happened, but it was more when I got into junior high and high school that I can remember, like, a consistent pattern with my mom and her drinking. But when I was younger, like, and I think this is where it's difficult in talking about having a parent that was an alcoholic, especially one like mine, because it wasn't every day, and it wasn't every week. And, you know, I, to some degree, had many, many magical moments with my mother. I mean, she just was, there were really amazing moments of my childhood. It wasn't like every day was this horrific alcoholic, you know, living. It wasn't that at all. And I think the fear that started to happen, which would probably be about 9 or 10, is when it started happening, was I never knew what I was going to walk into. So, like, if my mom had, like, gone and played tennis, and then, like, they came back to the house and, like, had drank all afternoon, then I was going to, and then my mom's friends would leave to go home, and then it would just be me and my mom, and she would be intoxicated. Then I would walk into that, you know, or if something had happened where my mom was really, really sad, like the divorce stuff just really broke my mom, and she was so sad over that stuff that, like, a lot of times she would just, like, drink by herself, then those were, like, really horrible days. But by and large, most days when I was growing up, they weren't like that. Like, those were few and far between. On weekends, like when we would stay at my Aunt Kathy's house and stuff like that, my mom drank a lot. But I felt safe in those environments because I had my aunt and uncle. you know, and I would stay in Caroline's room and whatever. And so we would stay there. We would go there, like I'd pack a little bag and we would go there on a Friday and we would stay there till like on Sunday sometimes, you know? And so, I think we would like get up and go to church on Sundays, and then we would go from church to home or whatever. But we stayed at my aunt and uncle's house a lot when I was growing up. I think because my mom was so afraid to be alone, she would say, I hate this big old house. She didn't want to be in the house by herself. When I was in high school and my mom was working, she worked retail a lot in high school. When I was in high school, she hated it. She hated working retail. And she worked at Ayers, and she worked in the domestics department, which was like towels and sheets and stuff. And then at one point she worked at Jacobson's, which was commission. And she said that these women were, like, she would say the women that I work with are catty and competitive, and they like are constantly like trying to get a sale. And she was like, and they don't want to be friendly to you. And she was like, I hate going into work. She hated it. My mom in like probably 3 years worked like 10 retail jobs. I always think of that. If you guys have ever seen the movie Auntie Mame, when she can't figure out, like, she wants to send everything COD, which I think is called charge on delivery or something like that. She wants to send everything COD because it's the only thing that she knows how to do. My mom actually, I think she got let go. Fired is the not so nice term, but she got let go. She was working for this like Filofax store. Do you guys remember those Filofax? She worked at Laura Ashley. My mom worked everywhere, okay? She worked for this Filofax store. I don't know if you guys remember these, but they were like leather bound, like address books that had like calendars and people's like, you know, addresses and everything. They're called Filofaxes. And so she worked in the store, right? Well, everything was on this like computer, and she didn't know how to do the computer because my mom was like completely technologically she had no clue, right? And she was so upset because they let her go, and they were like, we just, you know, like, you don't understand how to work this computer and blah, 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 whatever. And so later, my mom, this was like when I was in my like, I think I was late 20s, early 30s. My mom got a job at Lifetime Fitness working third shift because she's like, I can't sleep anyway, I'm a night owl. And she wanted a free gym membership. She was too cheap to pay the $100 a month or whatever. So she ended up working at Lifetime Fitness because you got a free membership. Well, her job was to clean the women's locker room and fold towels. And I'll never forget, she called me. She was so mad. And it was like the third day that she worked there. And there was this guy that worked there, and he was like her manager, and he was like 20 years old. And he came down, and she was like folding these towels, and he was like, Mrs. Monn, you're doing like a really good job folding these towels. And she was like, let me tell you something. I have 2 master's degrees, and I don't need this job, and I am out of here. She was like so mad. I'm like, Mom, where's your humility and all of that, you know? But anyway, she struggled. She, you know, because she taught for so much of her life. She worked, you know, working in school systems, but then she got like really, really burnt out by that. And there was a long period of time where there was like a hiring freeze, and there weren't teaching positions that were open. And so, and especially because she worked in specialty areas of teaching, you know, and so she couldn't find jobs, and the jobs that she could find she didn't want. And so she ended up working retail, and she just hated it. She hated working retail. She taught for a long time. She really liked substitute teaching because it would be like going into a different school, you know, school classroom every day and whatever. And my mom actually really liked, she never taught high school, but she really liked substitute teaching in high school. I don't know why. I think she felt like she kind of like connected with them or something like that. But she would say, like, I'm substitute teaching, like, physics today. And I'm like, do you even know what physics? She'd be like, no, I just have to follow, like, the teaching guide that they send me. She's like, but I can't help them at all with what's going on, because she didn't know this stuff. My mom and I were very similar. It was like math and science were not our thing, you know? So anyway, but she liked substitute teaching, and she could pick and choose which one she wanted to do and all of that. But I don't know, I was thinking of that today. I was thinking it's kind of bizarre when I think back on my mom, you know, and I think, like, there are many times that I think about the drinking incidences, and I think that, like, the really bad times, the bad memories really are really heavy duty. And so I remember those, but there were so many good times too where she never drank. She never was drinking at all. Like, I can remember many dinners where my mom would have a glass of milk and water, you know, and I can see it. It was like we had these blue goblets and she would drink milk out of it. And my mom was somebody that always drank milk. She loved it. And in fact, I can remember when she switched us over to skim milk, and I thought it was so disgusting. And I was like, it's watered down milk, Mom. She's like, it's healthier for you. And that was also when we started eating whole wheat pasta, and I was like, Mom, this is so gross. Nobody eats whole wheat pasta. And she was like, well, we're going to do it. And I was like, okay. She was kind of ahead of her time when it came to like health stuff, but she just didn't really stick with it too much. But when she was eating her gallon of ice cream for 99 cents from the grocery store, she called me and she'd say, I call her and she'd be finishing up a movie and she'd say, can I call you back? And I'd say, yeah. And then she'd call me back and she'd say, I feel so sick to my stomach. And I'm like, what's wrong, Mom? And she'd say, I just sat and ate an entire gallon of ice cream. And I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, well, they had a gallon, pick any flavor you want, gallon of ice cream at Marsh. Marsh was this local grocery store we had, kind of like a Kroger or something. She'd say they had, pick any flavor that you want of ice cream, 99 cents for a gallon. And I just sat here and ate the whole thing while I was watching the late movie, or the 9 o'clock movie. And I'm like, Mom. And then she'd go, I'm going to watch the local news. And I'm like, okay. So, well, listen, you guys, I'm going to get off here now and start putting this up so that I can relax for a little bit. But it was fun talking about those things. I loved those Sundays. They were really fun. They were nice ways to start my week, you know. And this has been a nice way to kind of start my week as well. So I hope that you guys are having a magically amazing Sunday and getting refreshed, renewed, rejuvenated, and relaxed for the week ahead. And if nobody else has told you this today, I love you. Remember these 3 very important things. 1, you can start your day over whenever you want. 2, practice random acts of kindness, but don't tell anyone. And 3, most importantly, make sure that you reach out to somebody and let them know how much they mean to you. You'll be putting a smile on their face, changing their day, making them happier, and just you might be turning their whole life around, you know? You don't know. And also, be kinder to one another, love one another a little bit more, and be kinder and love yourselves a little bit more. And I love you guys so much, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye. Love you. Up and for and for those that need to hear it, and those that want to hear it, and those that just happen to stick around. One more, I love you. I love you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye. Love you. Happy birthday, Lena.